So your users, your typical IT users in any organization, they probably have phones, right? They probably have their little cell phones, their little iPhones, their little Android devices, their Nokia devices. There's some other company that's in the market. It's the interface with the square blocky things, multicolored, because I'm 5 years old and I need to have a phone. Whatever the phone might be, I'm leaving this kind of generic and saying that portable phones, smartphones, there's almost not such a thing as a non-smartphone anymore. Even a phone that has some kind of call memory, some kind of phone book, is potentially a smartphone, or a phone that stores data and receives data and sends data. Very few phones don't actually have data anymore. But even more so, many phones are essentially small computers, or not even small computers anymore. So I think that largely portable phones do play well into the defense in depth model. They give us something to look at, and they expose our assets to a bunch of different kinds of risks. Some we've looked at before and some we haven't looked at before. So for example, we really don't have any way to understate the fact that these phones are constantly at risk of being lost, being stolen, being compromised, being thrown out, being found by a competitor, being found by another employee of the same security clearance level, different security clearance level, all that kind of stuff. The phone, by its very nature, is designed to be in your pocket, in your purse, in your briefcase, in your other pocket, that kind of, strapped to part of your body, whatever part of your body that might be. It's an exceptionally high risk. So the moment I see the concept of modeling a phone in a defense in depth model, I immediately go for a giant red X for physical. I can just make the assumption that the phone, by its very nature, is designed to be portable and exposed to some level of physical risk, some significant amount of physical risk. Stewardship, that probably gets a bigger, redder X, because how often do people think about the security of their phone, even if their phone has an enormous amount of sensitive data on it, even if they've been trained and explained, hey, this phone, you can't really let anybody else use your phone, you can't let competitors see your phone, you can't leave the phone unlocked anywhere, and you walk away, and then 10 minutes later, this person is letting their kids play a game on it. They're throwing pigs at blocks, or they're doing whatever kind of game you like on their phone. Their kid is doing that, or they've handed the phone to someone to use to make a quick phone call kind of thing. Horrible, horrible, horrible concept of stewardship. Or the phone gets damaged, or the phone maybe gets a cracked screen and they hand it to a repair person. And the repair person says, no problem, this phone will be ready in 48 hours. And they go off for the weekend and come back. Okay, your phone's not cracked anymore. I did make a few images of it and save them as torrents up on Pirate Bay. But but it's working, so here you go. Your data's now gone, the assets are gone, but and it comes down to stewardship, understanding that phone is a device that has trustworthy, sensitive data on it. It can't be exposed to that kind of risk, and stewardship is what fails in a lot of those cases. We assume that the external network and internal networks are going to be insecure on a phone because we don't know where the phone is going to be connected. We don't know if that phone is connecting to a 3G network, a 4G network, a spoofed 3G or 4G network. We don't know if that phone's traveling to a country that we don't trust the mobile data network in. Or if the phone is connected to Wi-Fi, it has Wi-Fi enabled, that user may be connecting to random hotspots, not just your corporate Wi-Fi, but any Wi-Fi. And then with fixed and mobile convergence, or FMC, that concept essentially to the security professional means that phone can, on its own, making its own decision, decide to switch over to Wi-Fi data to save the carrier some money. So if that user has Wi-Fi disabled, but they happen to be at Starbucks and they're on the wrong carrier, that phone turns on Wi-Fi and starts using that for data. Did you know that? You probably didn't know that. But that's the thought-provoking experiment that we're doing here with the defense in depth model. The host itself, you can usually put a question mark next to the host because we don't really know most of the time what kind of defenses the host has. For example, Android has on a lot of its phones this concept of encrypt the device. But how many of us actually read the papers, read the white papers, read the research, and find out what kind of cryptography, what kind of key management, what kind of protection? Same thing with an iPhone, same thing with this device, that device, the other device. It doesn't matter. If you've researched it, that's great. If you haven't researched it, you just don't know what kind of data or what kind of security is on the host. And that would actually work for the data as well. And I've covered the data, I think, with the network quite a bit. And then the application. The application is an interesting one here, because how often do we know that applications are trustworthy that users install on their phone? We don't. We have no idea. Is this particular game trustworthy? Who knows? Is this particular business app trustworthy? Who knows? If we vet them, if we restrict the phone and essentially configure it so that it only installs apps that we vet and we trust, we may actually put a check mark here. If we allow the user, because it's their phone, to install arbitrary apps, custom apps, jailbreak their phone, or tweak their phone, put a different OS on there, then it's probably actually going to be a red X. And I think in most cases it's going to be a giant question mark, because most folks today don't actually do any kind of restriction at the application layer on phones. Because it's a user phone, they get to make the choices of what apps to install, not install, trust or not trust. So looking at the defense in depth model for a typical user's phone, we've got a lot of areas to cover, a lot of areas that we can actually control. And for me, the biggest bang for the buck tends to always be the same: stewardship. I look right there and I determine that with some training, some education, some policies and ramifications for violating the policies, most of the time, strong stewardship on the phone can actually make up for weakness in a lot of the other areas, some of which are going to be beyond your control. So that's how I put the typical user's phone into the defense in depth model.